Alright, so welcome back students. We are now down to the topic 2 of the GE102 Geometric Geodesy, which is all about the reference ellipsoid as a geodetic earth model. These will be the authors and contributors of this lecture material, and this is for the copyright notice. For the outline of the presentation, we have 3 parts. The first part is the rotational ellipsoid as geometrical figure of the earth. Part 2, which is the ellipsoids adapted to the different countries. And for the part 3 is all about the parameters of a rotational ellipsoid with topics covering the brief review of the fundamental properties of an ellipse and the parts of the ellipsoid. This will be the intended learning outcomes that after this lecture and exercises, you the student must have explained the concepts and principles of the reference ellipsoid as a geodetic earth model, identify and describe the different ellipsoids adapted in the different parts of the world, identify and discuss the parameters of a rotational ellipsoid, illustrate, identify and discuss the fundamental properties of the ellipse, memorize the formula for the ellipse, solve problems involving the parameters of the ellipse, and illustrate and discuss the different parts of the rotational ellipsoid. So let's start with the part 1, which is all about the rotational ellipsoid as geometrical figure of the earth. Let's recall the ellipsoidal earth model that based upon discussion last topic, that if the earth is not a sphere, then what else it could be? So in an ellipse having a flattening in the equator, or an ellipse having a flattening at poles. So let's recall again that if an ellipse is rotated about its minor axis, it forms an ellipsoid of revolution. So again, so kung naadriya ang rotational axis of an ellipse, din mutuyok siya, then ang volume nga ma-generate niya is an evolution or ellipsoid. Naka-ellipse with rotational axis at minor axis, then pag imo nang tuyokon, ang volume nga ma-generate niya is what we call ellipsoid of revolution or ellipsoid. The customary ellipsoid earth model has its minor axis parallel to the rotational axis of the earth, and the size of such an ellipsoid is usually given by the length of the two semi-axes or by the semi-major axis and the flattening. So ang iyang parameters, it's either gihatag is ang length of two semi-axes, which is A, mo ni siya ang major axis, semi-major axis rather, and B is the semi-minor axis. Again, let's recall the geodetic earth model. So, when we say geodetic earth model, it is used as a reference for the actual surface and external gravity of the field of the earth rather, and it should provide a good fit to the geoid at the gravity field. So, mo akong giingon nga kung unsa ang earth model nga gamiton, such as an ellipse, dapat good fit siya sa geoid. Siya ang nag-approximate sa geoid. And the mathematical formation of the model should be simple as possibly permit calculation by the closed formulas. Here are, mo ni siya ang katong giingon ko last time na nganong si ellipsoid ang gamiton, sir, nganong dili man si geoid? It's because of its simple and established calculations na, And the model should serve as the standard for application not only in geodesy and cartography but also in the astronomy and geophysics. Again, it should satisfy the demands and needs to these disciplines. And here's the example nganong baliktaan nga figure that if this is the terrain or the surface of the earth, and kaning blue is ang geoid, which is nag-approximate po siya sa surface of the earth, and out from the geoid, here we are nga makabuhat ta og ellipsoid, which is approximating the geoid. Level ellipsoid is possesses a simple geometry. Nganong si ellipsoid ang gigamit? It's because of the simple geometry, and the coordinates that refer to the approximate of the natural coordinates is sufficient. And the ellipsoid mass and rotation provides a normal gravity field, and which can be calculated if the ellipsoid surface is defined to be at equilibrium. So let's recall in your analytic geometry or in your calculus, no, sa inyong mathematics, or analytic geometry to be exact, no, which is part na siya kadun sa inyong calculus. What is an ellipse? No? Ellipse is the locus of point that moves such that the sum of the distances from two fixed points called foci is constant. So, pasabot niya, si ellipse daw kuno is na siya two fixed points which is the focus or foci, no? Foci. And ang ingon niya, the sum of the distances from the fixed two points, no? Such as kung kanino na adri ang isa ka point, then natay duha ka fixed na point which is the foci, ang distance daw ani niya kani plus kana is constant, no? Constant. The constant sum is the length of the major axis 2a. So mao ni pasabot niya constant. In short, kung nadri ang isa ka point o nadri ang point sa circumference sa ellipse, no? The sum daw kuno of f1 to p plus f2 to p is equals to the major axis 2a. So, then, again, so distance 1 which is f1 to p and distance 2 is f2 to p. Pag imo nang i-plus, no, d1 plus d2 is equals to constant, and that constant is the major axis which is equal to 2a. Alright, so in constructing an ellipse, there are three ways to construct, no, and at any size or shape. First is we have mechanical, graphical, and mathematical. In mechanical construction, first is the total string length is twice as the sum of the semi-major axis. So, muna kong i-discuss sa ganina. No? And the separation of the foci from the origin determines the minor axis length. So, ito lang i-discuss later kaya na may graphic, no, after aning a slide. Then, stopping the pencil at point P2 when the minor axis produces the symmetrical figure. And the distance from each focus to P2 is 1/2 of the total string length. So, ato siyang isa-isa ko discuss, no? Ang pasabot niya ganyan itong sa first is the total distance of the string is equal to the major axis, which is 2a. And ito yung niya kagaya na, the separation of the foci from the origin determines the minor axis length. Nga naman, sir? It's because for example, at this focus, no, kaning duha ka point which is ang focus, kung mas duol siya sa origin, mas dako ang iyahang semi-minor axis. No? Imagine nga fixed ni nga point, no? Tapos kani is pencil kaning point 2, no? So kung magkalayo ang inyong focus or katong point nga inyong i-stable, like for example, dirian na siya ang F2, same po sa F1, kaya dapat symmetrical mo na sila. So, kung naadri ang duha ka point, magkalayo siya sa origin, magkagamay ang inyong semi-major axis. No? So, i-experiment na ninyo sa inyong balay. No? For example, na ay duha ka point fixed diri then namoy string, like for example, sa tawag straw, or any kind of na po ninyo gamit, then kanis ang pencil. So, kung magkalayo siya sa origin, is ang ayang semi-minor axis is magkamubo pod or magagamay. Then if it is closer no, to the origin, mas dako or mas taas pod, no, ang value niya sa semi-major axis. Mo pasabot niya sa number 2 in mechanical construction. When you're stopping at the pencil at point 2 on the minor axis produces the symmetrical figure. Mo ni siya. So kung naadri si point P2, no, and mo ni ang mga focus. So pag ang total sum of the string is 2a man, no? So therefore, pag naadiri ang point, this is equal to a and this is equal to also to a, no? Kaya symmetrical naman sila. No, again, pag-construct niya, sir, through mechanical, again, magbuhat mo og duha ka point na stable, no? Then ang kaning isa is pencil, no? Then pag inyo siyang tuyok hangtod sa makabuo na din kag ellipse. So that's how you construct an ellipse in mechanical method. No? Note daw that the distance between each focus and the origin is the distance AE, no? So ang kaning distance from the origin padulong sa isa ka focus, that's AE. Unsa nang E? Eccentricity. So later ato nang i-discuss pod sa parameters of an ellipse. So how about graphical construction? Graphical construction daw. So an angle between the equatorial plane, x-axis, and the radial line is called parametric latitude or beta. In some geodetic literature, it is called reduced latitude. Again, ay sa mga confused ang reduced latitude and parametric latitude, it's because it will be discussed later. No? So, para lang for the purpose of how to graph or how to construct an ellipse using graphical construction. And the x and z coordinates of the point on the ellipse are given respectively by this equation. So again, balikon pa ni unyag tan-aw si pasabot ani niya. So narang pamaagi sa pag-construct kuno og ellipse using graphical. First is you have a small circle. Small circle. So ang tawag na is ang inner, Then you're going to construct another circle which is bigger than the later na imuhang gibuo nga circle. And let's construct a x-axis, along the y-axis. Then imuha siyang partition. No? Dapat ang kaninga mga angle is dapat the same sila ani tanan. Same sila lang. Then hangtod lang sa dira lang. For example sa x-axis. Then you need to create a perpendicular line from the kung asan nag-intersect ang kadtong imuhang gibuhat nga line kani and the inner circle. So magbuhat dira og 90 degrees. Kung asa mag-meet sila. Again, same gihapon from diri gikan sa next nimo nag-intersect ang inner circle ug ang katong isa ka line yung gi-construct ka ganina forming a 90 degrees. And so on and so forth. So magbuhat ka ana. Ay kay wala kang mag-overlap siya. It's okay. No. Ana hangtod sa kaning isa. Then to construct an ellipse, you need to trace those right angle nag-meet ang katong lines gikan sa taas padulong diri, then katong line nga gikan diri sa intersection sa inner circle forming a 90 degrees, then maka-create ka og ellipse. No? And for this graphical construction, mag-determine ang imuhang minor axis or semi-minor axis sa radius sa inner circle, and the minor axis or semi-minor axis will determine the radius of the outer circle. So kung gamay ang imuhang inner circle tapos dako ang imuhang what do you call this one? Outer circle, so magka-flatten pagid og maayo no, at poles. So tayo niya sa inyong balay na how to construct a ellipse using graphical construction. And katong si parametric latitude nga pasabot niya kaganina, which is b sin beta is equal to this one. Reduce na siya kay it's because from the inner circle gi-project niya padulong sa ellipse, and that latitude is what we call parametric latitude or the reduced latitude. Later on, we're going to discuss this one. For mathematical construction, the third and perhaps the most efficient method in constructing an ellipse is to compute the x and z for a sufficient number of points and plot them directly. So by plotting, plotting method using graphing paper or bisag unsa nga pwede niyo magamit. And coordinates are computed using the semi-major axis, the eccentricity squared, and the geodetic latitude of that point. Example, this one, plotting lang. So kung given kag na origin 0, 0, now you need to calculate the minor axis. Minor axis is kani, semi-minor axis kapag katunga lang. So you need to if you have the value of b, which is the minor axis, then you can plot there sa inyong graphing paper. Like for example, 0 and the value of the semi-major axis. And sa obus pod, since kay negative ang value padulong sa obus, the negative b na nakuha ninyo. So as si major axis, pag diri nga part is ang iyahang x-axis is ang semi-major axis, then sa picas is ang negative semi-major axis. So this is for oblate, no? Oblate nga ellipse, and this is for prolate, vice versa na sila. So for the general equation of an ellipse, atong i-recall sa inyong mathematics or sa inyong calculus that we have this general equation: ax squared plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equals to 0. So yung ano yung general equation. Kung makita kag ingani nga forma ng equation, then it's an ellipse, no? So again, you need to familiarize this one kay para unya pag mag-solve na tag ellipse problems, dapat naka-familiar na mo ano nga general equation. And this is for the standard equation. Standard equation. So if an ellipse daw with center at the origin, pasabot ang iyang 0, 0 is nasa origin, or ang iyang center pala is nasa 0, 0 rather, no? So yan ang iyang equation. X squared over a squared, kay since ang iyang x and y is 0, 0 man, so mo na x squared over a squared na lang plus y squared over b squared is equals to 1. And this is an ellipse, forma sa ellipse, no? Having the origin at the major origin and the major axis at y axis. So ang iyang major is na along y axis. Ganin na kay x axis. Kani is y. And if an ellipse daw ko, no, having the center at somewhere, what we call h and k. H ani is ang x values and k is ang y value. And the major axis parallel to the x axis. So ang iya daw major axis is parallel to x axis. Mo ni siyang oblate ang forma niya. Again, ang iyahang center is somewhere h and k. H and k. So mo ni ang mga values sa center. H ang x, k ang y. And this is an ellipse with the center hk and major axis parallel to y-axis. Y-axis na po siya, but the center is not in the origin. It's somewhere hk. So let's go now to the elements of an ellipse. First is the center. Center is denotated as h as for the x-axis and k is for y-axis. So, for example, if a ellipse daw is having a center at the origin, so ang iyang h is 0 and ang iyang k is 0. So, yun na lang. Next is the semi-major axis. Semi-major axis is denotated as a small letter a. In this figure, from the origin padulong sa one of its vertices. So kani ang iyang unit is a, it's because kung naadri ang point, kung naadri ang focus, a gyapon na siya kay from V3 pod padulong di sa F1 is also a, di ba? Kay a total length ani niya from the focus padulong sa isa sa point at the circumference padulong diri sa second focus is 2a. So mo nang a lang gihapon siya. And you have semi-minor axis B, semi-minor axis B. So kaning illustration is from the origin padulong sa vertex along y-axis B. Semi-minor B and semi-major A. Next is the location of foci C with respect to the center of an ellipse. Now, location of foci is from the origin padulong sa F2 or one of its foci. So ang distance na niya is C, or that is equal to sa atong ginaganin na nga A times eccentricity, or AE. Alright, so next is the length of the latus rectum. So latus rectum is the line which is parallel to the minor axis, pero muagi siya sa foci, no? Or sa iyang focus. In this case, we have latus rectum, no? Along the y-axis, since the minor axis is also parallel, no? Which is also in the y-axis. Since kay parallel man sila dapat ni latus rectum, and muagi dapat siya sa one of the focus. So in this case, latus rectum at F2 and latus rectum at F1. Pero of course, same man na sila of value. No? And we have the formula which is equal to 2b squared over a, where b is the semi-minor axis, no? Semi-minor axis squared over ang kaning a is ang semi-major axis. Next is the eccentricity, which is ang iyang formula is equal to c over a, where c is the length from the origin going to the one of the focus. C over a, which is ang a pod niya is the semi-major axis. And in terms of ellipse, dapat ang eccentricity niya is must be, no, less than 1, no, ang iyang eccentricity. Next element is the location of the directrix. No? Directrix, which is with respect to the center of the ellipse. No? In this case, ang iyang directrix is directrix ay kani yes, kaning orange, no? Orange. So ang directrix niya malocate siya, no? Dapat ang iyang F1 to V and V to the location of the directrix must be equal. No? Again, focus padulong sa one of the vertices, and vertices padulong sa directrix or location of the directrix is must be equal. No? Same po diri sa PICAS. And we have formula nga directrix is equals to A over E. No? A here is the semi-major axis and E is the eccentricity. Or, pwede po siya A squared over C. No? Again, A dria is ang semi-major axis and C is the distance from the origin padulong sa foci. And we have also the perimeter of an ellipse. Having the formula, which is equal to 2 pi times the square root of A squared minus B squared over 2. A is the semi-major axis, B is the semi-minor axis. And for the area of an ellipse, simple lang, A area is equals to pi AB. Alright, so let's have an example. Example number 1. The problem is, given the equation of the curve 9x squared plus 25y plus 54x minus 100y minus 44. Find the following: center, vertices, foci, latus rectum, perimeter, area, and equation of the directrix. Alright, so let's do the solution for the example number 2. So we have here the equation of the curve given to ganina, which is 9x squared plus 25y plus 54x minus 100y minus 44 is equals to 0. This is the equation of the curve. So patakabalo kung saan siya nga klase ng curve. Either it's ellipse, circle, parabola, hyperbola, and so on. But let's recall the general equation of an ellipse. Okay, since ellipse atong topic, so probably the equation above is an ellipse. So the general equation is ax squared plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equals to 0. So nauna to sa yung given, no? So parehas man sila dagway sa general equation sa ellipse. So therefore, the above equation is an ellipse. So next is we are going to group, no, according to the variables, no, si 9x squared plus tapad na to si 54x kay same silang variable plus 25y squared og si 100y. Then i-transpose dayon si 44 sa PICAS. So muna siya na ay equal to 44. Next is ato ang igawas ang ilang common multiple sa with respect to x variables. So naatay 9, no, kay 9 of 54 is divisible by 9. So therefore, gawas si 9. 9 times the x squared plus 6x, and for the y nga variable, is, since 25 o 100 is divisible by 25, so therefore, igawa sa 25, and times y squared minus 4y is equals to 44. Next is, we need to have the value para mahimo siya o perfect square. So, si x squared plus 6x, gidugangan siya og y, 9, para mahimo siya og perfect square. So, sa y pod, si y squared minus 4y plus 4, gidugangan siya og 4 to become a perfect square. Then, sa pikas pod is 44. Man gikan si 81 sir og si 100. Now, di ba nga ganina nagdugang ta og value nga 9 og 4 to become the x variable, mahimo siyang perfect square, so sa y variable. So, si 9, natay gidugang nga 9, pero nasulod man siya sa parentheses, so we need to times it into 9, which is gawas nga value. So, 9 times 9 is 81, and 4 times 25 is 100. Therefore, kay na naman tayo, ang ato namang x and y variables is naka-perfect square naman, so ato siyang himuon nga naka-perfect square na siya, which is 9 times, pila man ni siya, so x plus 3 na siya, x plus 3 squared, plus 25 sa y is mahimo na siyang y minus 2 squared, is equal to, pag ato ni i-add, 44, 81, o 100 is 225. To become nga 1 na lang diri sa pikas, sa pikas, atong i-divide nga og 225. So 225 all over 225 is equals to 1. So ato pong i-divide ang pikas nga equation of 225. So therefore, ang 9 over 225 is 1 over 25. Or mayroon tawag 225 divided by 9 is 25. Then, nabili na lang dayon si x plus 3 squared. And sa y nga mga variables is 25 divided by 225 is equals to 1 over 9. Then, ang mabilin sa taas is y squared, y minus 2 squared is equals to 1. Therefore, balik taan ni nga standard equation sa ellipse, kay since ang ato ang curve is an ellipse, nga si x minus h squared all over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared is equals to 1. So, parehas mas lagdagoy ani So, ato ada yung ellipse karon is naa siya center nga hk, unya ang iyang major axis is parallel to x-axis. So, saan siya pagkabalo sir kung parallel to x-axis ba siya or parallel to y-axis? Balik ta, tanaw na to kung asa gani ang dako nga value. For example, natay x variable, x plus 3 is equals x plus 3 squared or over 25 og y minus 2 squared or over 9. Now, kung dako gani ang value ang naa sa x nga variable, therefore it is parallel to x-axis. And pag pikas pod, kung kintahay na add si 25 sa y variable, therefore ang iyahang major axis is parallel now to y-axis. So again, ang atoang na-derive karon na curve based sa iyang standard equation is an ellipse na naay center HK, na siya major axis which is parallel to x-axis. So again, mo na definition na, so ano itong kasabot ka ganina, manong na ay 81 o 100. 9 times 9 is equals to 81. 4 times 25 is 100. So therefore, baliktaan na ito ang answer, itong na-derive ko ganina nga x plus 3 squared all over 25 plus y minus 2 squared all over 9 is equals to 1. Therefore, sa katong h o k kaganina, di ba? X minus h squared all over a squared. Baliktaan ni kani. So, x minus h squared all over a squared plus y minus k squared all over b squared. So, mo ni ang iyang formula kung ang ellipse is na ay center HK, kunya ang iyang major axis is parallel to x-axis. So, tandaan na ito kaganina, na si HDI is si 3, no? And K is negative 2. No? Kunya ang ato ang A squared is 25, and atong B squared is 9. So, balik ta dire. So, next na ito nga, resolve. Therefore, naatay equation nga x plus 3 is equals to 0 and y minus 2 is equals to 0 to get the value of x and to get the value of y. Therefore, ang atoa di ay karong center which is h, k is equal to negative 3 and 2. Nasabtan? I guess nasabtan no kay sud kayo i-explain ang solution pag naana diri sa PowerPoint kay mas nindot man gitong atong i-discuss, atong isulat sa board kung saan siya pag-calculate, but sige lang, tiis-tiis lang tani no. So I am trying my best to explain you and discuss you what is the concept. So again no, so mao man ni ang ato ang equation ka ganina. So ato lang ni siyang i-equate into 0 ang x plus 3 and si y minus 2 to get the value of x and y. Therefore, ang atong center is negative 3 and 2. Diba? H man to na? H and K. Pero para makuha si H and K, inangan pa nato siya i-equate into 0. So, nanatay center, 3, 2. Negative 3, 2. So, since kay oblate ang ato ang ellipse, it's because it is flattened, no? Or ang iyahang semi-major axis or the major axis is parallel to x-axis, no? Kagani na itong i-discuss. Therefore, para makuha na ito ang iyahang vertex is from the center, no? Center nga naamantay x ug y, di ba? Center x, ato lang siyang dugangan og value sa a. Yung sa pagkuha ang value sa a, di ba kani is a squared? 25 is equals to a squared and 9 is equals to b squared. To get the value of a, just the square root of 25 is we have 5. And for b is we need to have the square root of 9 which is 3. So ang ato din a karon is 5, ang atong b is 3. So mo ni siya. I-add lang siya, no? For the vertex 1, mo ni ato ang kung atong i-plot, no? Kung ato siyang i-plot, the center is negative 3, 2. So, naa siya doon nga part. So, to get the vertices is we need to, nakuha na ito ngayon na ang A. Ano si A? Diba ang A na to is 5. So, we need to add 5 padulong diri o 5 pod padulong dito. So, therefore, ang ato di ay vertex sa so, nga part is natuwa lang siyang minusan of 5. No? So, negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. No? Negative 8. And since straight lang siya, so save lang ato ang y, which is 2. Sa pikas pod is from the center, mag-add lang ta og 5. Then, we have these values. So, vertex 1 is negative 8, 2, and vertex 2 is 2, 2. Okay, it's because negative 3 man ino. Negative 3 plus 2 na itong 2. So, 2 na dahil. Alright, so the next thing that we need to get is the coordinates of the foci. From the equation above, mo ni nga ganina, x plus 3 squared over 25 plus y minus 2 squared over 9 is equals to 1. So, di ba? X minus h over a squared plus y minus k all over b squared is equals to 1. So therefore, ang ato adi ay a, no? Kaya diba a squared man yung 25, so a squared is equals to 25. Therefore, we have the value of a is equals to 5. So, square root na siya. Then kani is b squared man, so b lang atong gipangita, so ato na siyang i-square. Next thing is we need to get the value of c. Value of c from the Pythagorean theorem, we have a squared plus is equals to b squared plus c squared. So ato igawa si c kasi c atong gusto kuhaon. So we have the equation na c is equals to square root of a squared minus b squared. Substituting the value of a and b, which is 5 and 3, we have the value of c is equals to 4. And to get the focus, di ba kay atong i-discuss sa ganina nga ang distance from the origin padulong si of one of its focus is equals to c, or a times eccentricity. So therefore, mo nang gikuha nato si c. Okay, si c is also the distance from this origin padulong sa one of the focus. So going to the right is i-add, and going to the left is i-minus. So therefore, along x-axis man siya, so si x-axis ang ato ang dugangan. So si y is stay put lang siya. Then naman tayo ganin nakuha nga pila to ang center. We have the center which is equal to wait lang. Center is negative 3 and 2. So therefore, pagkuha sa ato ang focus is negative 3 going to the right plus 4. So we have focus 2 which is in the right nga 1 and 2. So 1 si x and 2 si y. Then going to the left is a minus. So negative 3 minus 4 is equals to negative 7. Then ang iyahang y-axis, y coordinate is remain as 2. Next is we need to determine the latus rectum. So we have the formula nga 2b squared over a. Substitute the value of b and a, which is 3 and 5. We have the value of latus rectum is which is equal to 3.2 units. So units na katong ganiton kay wala man na nabutang o meter ba siya or what's on. Next is the perimeter. Now, perimeter is we have the formula 2 pi squared of a squared plus b squared over 2. Substitute the value of a and b, so we need to we get the value of 25.91 units. Alright, so next thing is we need to determine the directrix. So formula for the directrix is equals to d is equals to a over e. So ato siyang ipasimplify, no, a. So si eccentricity is equal to c over a. Ato na ni-discuss sa ganina. So ato na siyang this equation will come out nga mahimo siyang a squared over c. So substituting the value of a and c, we have this 25 over 4. Now since kaya nga ato ang x or no, ato ang a pala, which is the semi-major axis, is along x-axis, no? Or parallel siya sa ato ang x-axis. So we need to have the equation of the directrix na paana og forma. So diba we have ellipse nga nag-forma, no? Okay, ano man siya, oblate. Therefore, ang directrix is naa-diri ang part, gawas. So we need to have the equation of that one. Equation sa diri sa right and equation sa left. So first is we need to get the equation from the minus, no? I-minus na to siya, ang pikas po is e plus. Therefore, ang ato ang equation sa x na part is x plus 3 is equals to 0, which is ano itong gigamit kanina sa pagkuha sa coordinate sa x sa center. So ato lang buhaton is i-minus lang nato, mag-minus lang ta og 25 over 4, which is ang value sa d. So i-transpose x now is equals to negative 3 minus 25 over 4. So doing the mathematical manipulation, no, we came out nga si x is equals to negative 37 over 4. Para mahimo siyang isa ka equation, ato na lang ibutang dito atong cross multiply si 4, no, 4x isa i-transpose din si 37, no, which is mahimo siyang 4x plus 37 is equals to 0. So this is now the equation of the directrix, or the directrix 1. Equation of the directrix 1. Next is ato na pong i-add. Same lagay po ng process. x plus 3 is equals to 0. So, i-transpose si 3. Dahil mo siyang x is equals to negative 3. Pero karon i-plus na siya. Plus 25 over 4. Manipulating hangtod sa makaabot ka og x is equals to 13 over 4. Para mahimo siyang equation, atong i-cross multiply and i-transpose, resulting to 4x minus 13 is equals to 0. This is now the equation of the directrix 2. So again, nasabtan. So if you have any questions with this example number 1, kung ano yung nasabtan, and I hope and I assume na maayon na mo ani, no? Kaya nakaagi naman mo og calculus ug mathematics. And we have also example number 2, another example for the ellipse problems. Find the equation of an ellipse whose vertices are points 4, 6, and 4, negative 2, and whose eccentricity is 3/4 or 3 over 4. So, ang gihatag sa tuwa karon is ang vertex, no? Vertex sa isa ka ellipse. So, ano na pag-solve? Ato siyang i-plot. No? Atong i-plot na 4, 6, which is ang 4 daw ako no ang x, 6, and y. Then, sa vertex 2, 4, negative 2. Therefore, ang ato ding ellipse is paana. Right. So, this is now an prolate pala. Prolate nga ellipse na siya. Okay, flatten na siya at equator. So, anong gano'n siyang forma, sir? Again, gi-plot lang nato ang given. So, since the vertices are in y-axis, therefore, it is a prolate. Pag mo yung tag-prolate, mo ano yung equation. This is an ellipse having the center HK, and iyaha daw ko nung major axis is parallel to y-axis, therefore, mo ano yung formula. So, nabantayan nyo karon si A na is naa sa y. Again, so, si A na karon is naa sa y. Ganina, tong oblate pa siya, si A is naa sa x. So, baliktad na sila. Mo ni ang formula. So, from the gi-plot nato, no? Gi-plot nato ang coordinates sa mga vertices. We can directly get the center. No? So, pag po sa center, sir, kay since vertices man na siya, vertices na siya, kuha na to ang middle point, then that's now the center. So, atuara na siyang ang 4 is remain kay naka y-axis man siya, so ang change na po ni karon is ang y-axis. Ang x is remain lang siya. So, therefore, 6, no? 6 tapos plus 2 kay naman ubos man siya, no? Naman siya sa ubos. So, ito lang gihapon, di ba? 6 man diri ano, tapos luwangan na nato 2 sa ubos. So, we have now 8, no? 8 tapos 8 divided by 2 is 4. So, therefore, ang atuwa di ay center with respect to y now is 4 gikan sa vertices. So, 6 minus 4 is equals to 2. Muna natin center karon nga 4, 2. So, therefore, atuwa di ang h is 4, which is ang atuang x, and si k is 2, which is ang atuang y. Then from the given, no, nga eccentricity daw ko no is equals to 3/4, we have this formula nga si eccentricity di is equals to c over a. C over a. So, naman tayo value sa 3/4, eccentricity rather, nga 3/4, 3 over 4. Ato i-equate sa c over a, we can say nga si c di is 3, kunya ang ato apong a is 4. So, therefore, ato ang c is 3. Sabot sa 3, this is the distance, again, no, distance from the center going to the focus. So, 3. 1, 2, 3. So, 3 ang apart ang focus. 3. And, to get the value of A, A, so, again, obvious naman, no, na si A is equals to 4, pero ato agad po siyang i-solve, no. So, si y yun ko no sa vertex 1 is 6, and y sa vertex 2 is negative 2. So, i-absolute lang nato siya para madugang tanan, no? Ang pila ka units ang ato ang major axis, which is 2a. 8 is equals to 4 over 8 is equals to 2a. We have now the value of a is equals to 4. Ano? Isa siya pag-solve. Next is, from this illustration again, atay vertex 1, vertex 2. Kung pani si green is, kinsa man ni? This is C. Again, from the center going to one of the focus. And, kaning red, kinsa man ni si red? Ang red man ni siya. This is now the, okay, atong i-consider nga naadri ang point. Point. So, that's now the A, or the semi-major axis. Nanong na semi-major axis, sir? Nga kanima dapat center to vertex. Again, if this is the point, this is now the A. Okay, it's because, kung, di ba, nakadumdum mo ganin na sa mechanical na construction, na kung ang point is naadiri asa diri nga part which is located kung asa ang center, the sum of the string baya, the sum of the string is equal to 2a. Now, kung naadri si point, no, same location sa itawagan ni same location sa imong center with respect to amurag imo lang siyang gi-buffer, no, naman diri ang point. So kani is A and this is also A. Okay, 2A man siya ang isa ka string. And kaning blue is now the B, or the semi-major axis. So from the atong nakuha nga mga values kaganina, and from this illustration, we can say na si A squared di, which is now our hypotenuse in this illustration. Hypotenuse, so using the Pythagorean theorem, we have A squared is equals to B squared plus C squared. Or, mahimo na siyang ingan. A squared, o A, rather, is equals to square root of A squared plus C squared. Or, kung si C atong gusto, mo ano na ata is square root of A squared minus B squared. Substituting the value of A, B, and C, atong nakuha, A and C, which is atong nakuha ganyan na from the eccentricity, having C is equals to 3 and A is equals to 4, we can directly have the value of B, which is equal to square root of 7. I guess, yun na nasundan. And, from the equation nga atong ipakita kaganina, which is the standard equation of an ellipse, we have x minus h squared over b squared plus y minus k squared over a squared is equals to 1. Na naman tayo value sa h, k, which is atong nakuha ganyan through plots. We have x minus 4 and y minus 2. Anong negative na siya, sir? Di ba ito ko na siyang equate into 0? X minus 4 is equals to 0. We have now the value of x is equals to 4, which is ang ato ang c, ato ang h kaganina. And c, y, same gihapon, ato na i-transpose sa pikas, kaya naka-equate na ng 0. So therefore, 2 gihapon siya. So, again, nanatay value sa h ug k, napuntay value sa b and a. Diba ang atong a kaganina is 4. So therefore, 4 squared is 16. And ato ang b is negative 7. Negative 7 squared is 7. This is equal to 1. So, muna ni karon ng standard equation sa kani nga ellipse. Na given lang ang eccentricity o ang vertices, no? Ang coordinates rather sa vertices. Alright, we are now down to the part 2 of this topic, which is the ellipsoids adopted by the different countries. I will going to leave it to you, no? Na i-read ni tanan sa part 2. And I am going to emphasize this one, that the Clark 1866 is the ellipsoid that was adopted by the Philippines. We have the parameters of the semi-major axis having 6378 206.4, and semi-minor axis is 6356 583.8, and nasa inverse flattening 294.98. And the other one is the WGS 84. This is the ellipsoid adopted by the worldwide, no? Having an semi-major axis of 6378137 and semi-minor having 6356 752.31. And napod siya inverse natin nga 298.26. So again, I'm going to leave it to you. No? Kami siya about WGS84, Airy, and so many other ellipsoids. Again, I'm going to leave it to you to read about this one. And I guess this end now for the discussion of the part 1 and part 2. So see you again for the part 3 of this lecture and topic. God bless and keep safe.